Two.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Kicking It with Casca. Hey Hannah,
Hey, my pal.
how are you feeling?
I'm feeling freezing. That's why we all have our beanies on, but I'm ready to kick it today in my fuzzy socks and slippers
Hey, I was
because
wondering if everybody was ready to kick it in their slippers. We have had the snowstorm Blair come through, and we are all home today on a snow day number 3. I mean, guys, we haven't been back to work since last year.
it's awesome. I mean, I'm ready to go back.
I mean, me too. Need to put on some real pants for sure. Hey, it is cold outside, but man, it is hot up in here. Cue the Nelly music. We are so excited because we have the Laura Douglas. What is up, my queen? She is middle school counselor at Royal Valley Middle School in the same county, folks, where Malpal lives. We are Jackson County counselors. LD, how you doing, queen?
Hey,
Great.
but
How are
I
you
was
guys doing?
I gotta pump in there real quick because we forgot an important piece of Laura's puzzle.
I thought we were going to talk about it.
Well, she's a finalist for
Yes. Why is she on today?
Kansas Counselor of the
Yeah,
Year. So we gotta pump her up. LD, how you doing on this snow day?
it's great. It's actually only snow day number two for us. Our kids weren't supposed to come back till Tuesday.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, they gave us a
lucky.
nice long break, and
dang.
now
It
even
did give
longer.
us some extra long time for our winter break. That is for sure. I'm sure parents are chomping at the bit to say, Tag, you're it, school staff. Let's go.
I know
They were
Dalton
last
was asking yesterday, so when do you go back to school?
Are you going to go back to school?
Like, when does this happen?
last week at practice. One day, one of the parents was like, this is too long of a break. You need them back already." And I just kind of stared at him like, "You had the kid, dude. Like, sorry, not sorry."
Too funny. Well, Laura, we are so excited and congratulations on being a school counselor of the year finalist in Kansas. We are so proud of you. Congrats. You
Thank
bring
you.
so much, not just to the counseling world, but also to Casca. Tell
Mm.
us a little bit about your board position.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm president-elect. So next year then I will be president and then I'll go to outgoing president. Yeah. Super big honor. I was secretary for 4 years and yeah, that's kind of been what I've done on the board. Just getting to know other people, getting to know people like you guys. Um, Reach out to other school counselors and just really advocate for our role in schools and what we do and the importance of what we do. Um, and how we do it. I think that's the other big part that we advocate for is like we're not guidance counselors, we're
Mm.
not I always hate the thing that like, oh, a kid's crying, we're just gonna send them to you. Like, yes, I'm great at that, but there's so much more that I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the wonderful things about you, Laura, is that you work in the same community that you grew up in. Tell
Oh,
us a
that's
little
I
bit about
do.
that.
Yeah, so I grew up here at Royal Valley, or in Mayetta. I actually live on a farm next to my parents' farm. Um, by pure
Pioneer
accident,
woman, who is she?
right? Right. Just a little bit of a farm girl, super. Um, No, I that was never the intention. I was going to be an interior designer in Chicago and live in the high life and the high rises and just be a city girl. And, life came at me fast, came at me hard for some times. And I ended up back in this area, which worked out more than fantastic. And I'm super blessed to be able to be in the community where I grew up because it's also a super unique community. My school is made up of three different communities. We have Hoyt, Meta, and then the Prairie Band Potawatomi Reservation. And so again, being able to grow up here and knowing so much already about my community and the nation, then has also helped to foster relationships in my school, and just appreciate and honor the area that we in that because it is unique and it is something I think that brings so much value to my life.
awesome. Laura, could you tell us a little bit more about, you have a unique community and culture. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because not everybody has experience working with a tribe or multiple communities coming together into one.
Yeah, 100%. So again, our communities are small, which is nice, and they're all obviously pretty close to each other in order to make up one school district. But it is pretty unique. The Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation is obviously I have a huge bias for them because it's where I grew up, but they are the indigenous population is just beautiful in general, and then their history and their culture and the amazing things that Prairie Band Potawatomi tribe has done to build themselves back up after the awfulness of what we have done, of our ancestors have done, and our treatment of them is beautiful and something I think not enough people get to know about or get to watch through or appreciate sometimes. And I think being able to watch and see the beauty on my reservation and the the industry, I think is just hands down one of the greatest, coolest things that my kids also get to see is that we have the casino, which I hate calling it just a casino because it's a resort and it is awesome. It's got,
It's a little piece
it's
of
got,
Vegas in Jackson County.
it is, and it's got this
It
beautiful
is. It's pretty
spa,
cool.
amazing restaurants. The Nation Station makes the best pizza in Jackson County.
And the
I'm just
cheapest
saying.
gas. It's a good place
Oh,
to
the
get your
cheapest.
gas.
Yeah, like, and they, they're building all these other businesses too. We have the Boys and Girls Club over there that has so many different activities for kids to do, to keep them healthy and active in their community and in their lifestyles. And there's just such beautiful things going on. And it's just, yeah, it's really fun to watch. It's really cool to be a part of. Um, it's
And
just,
you
yeah,
have so many supporters from the different industries that you have. I know Prairie Band helps out Topeka schools.
Wow.
They
yeah,
are amazing. They do so many great things for their community, but also communities just around them as well. They are fantastic.
yeah. They work really hard to give back, which again, I just think is kind of a most beautiful thing because when you think about our history and you think about the things that our governments and unfortunately have taken in so many different ways, like I feel like a lot of times when things get taken from people, we end up hoarding those things on the other side of it because of the trauma and we don't want to lose anything again. And I think um, the Prairie Band has done such an amazing job of just trying to educate and trying to share and trying to enrich not just the reservation, but the area around us, which again, I think is a huge benefit and just something truly amazing to see and the leadership that they have, the people who are the ones that are working hard and doing all the work, the amount of jobs that they provide in our community is amazing and just it's just one of the coolest, greatest things to watch.
And you also are a very unique human in your community because not only are you a school counselor, you're also a foster mom. Tell us about
I,
that, Laura.
I am. So I always wanted to be a mom. Um, just always knew it. And so I've gotten older and I was in a position that I had space in my house and I, you know, those dual relationships are tricky and hard and not always for everyone. And have had to change the way I counsel and navigate life and work. Um, but the opportunity came up 3 years ago for me to provide some foster care for a couple kids. And here we are 3 years later, and they are the greatest part of my life. They are the busiest part of my life. They, but they have made me grow so much as a counselor and as a human, obviously as a mom. Um, and I just, it's been the greatest thing. And then I think it's also a huge way for me to also advocate for kids. Um, like growing up, in our community, we've had a lot of foster families. And I say a lot of foster families, but even in high school, I worked with foster families. And, I can think of four or five right off the top of my head. And so I always had a place for them. But I think being in the system or working in the system has also shed a ton of light of like the iniquities that we have there and the struggles and the hardness and but not just for the kids but for the foster parents and for the parents that lose the kids too because I think that's the other as counselors how many of us have sat there with kids or parents that have been like don't report or like you're just going to take my kids away from me and I go back to, and I try to always explain this to anybody I'm talking with or anybody I'm working with, especially in those tough situations of like, maybe I have rose-colored glasses and maybe I don't, like, I can't control that. I am a mandated reporter and I have to make the reports that I make. But the way our system is set up and the way it should be set up is that when kids get removed, they are not removed in order to punish somebody or to make people miserable. It's so that the things in place get set up so that way we all help each other. It's being kids being removed isn't it should never be the first step unless obviously the kid's in huge danger, right? But like my goal as a foster parent was always to foster those relationships, foster to of
No pun
like
intended.
right how to grow those things and how to like what are the resources that you need. um and in my first 2 years and even now the amount of times that I've said like I am privileged, I am a white woman raised middle class, like um my parents wouldn't say I was middle class, but I'm gonna tell you I always felt like I was pretty spoiled, so I'm gonna say I'm middle class. Like I got everything going for me. I got amazing parents, the best support system in the world, and I struggled. I
Mm.
struggled because I didn't have resources. It's just a single mom. Like, how do I get my kids everywhere with all the activities? If my car breaks down, if this happens, if I am struggling like that, can I imagine being that parent who doesn't have that community support or who maybe has struggled with addiction and now is embarrassed to show up sometimes because, come on, now I think everyone's judging me because, come on, people are judging me. Like, but if I am struggling and I've got all these other resources coming from me, how do I advocate for that parent or that person who doesn't have all those resources in order for them to want to show up too? Because let's be honest, like it's hard to show up. And so, yeah, I kind of think I went off on a tangent there, but again, being a foster parent has provided a whole nother level of counseling and um, humbleness and just greatness into my life. That has been amazing. And another area to advocate for, because again, I there's complexities of being in foster care. There's complexities of trying to adopt after foster care. Um, and all these kids want is a home and a family and to be taken care of. And even sometimes that's not what they want because they lived in a certain way before, and so that's all they know. And like it's hard to not that the next life is better, but like it's hard to assimilate into that. And so also you have to think about do you want them to assimilate to that? Um, because that's the other complexity. Like my kids are not white. And so how do I, as a white woman, foster their culture?
Love
That
that.
means that I have to show up in places that I don't know that I'm the minority, and thank God I do because it, come on, that's easy for me. Like I shouldn't like we all need to do that in order to make sure that we are encouraging other cultures and we're encouraging showing up for each other and what does it look like and how do we learn and how do we all be in the same space?
I love that, Laura.
Mhm.
That is awesome. And kudos to you because not every foster mom out there is like that. We know that there are people that think, well, you live in my house now, my rules, my things going on. And I love that you're open to different perspectives and making sure that your kiddos, have that cultural relevance that they need. I think that's
And
fantastic.
it's been hard and I couldn't have done it if I didn't have the sort of people around me. I think again, that's the other part of like I couldn't have done it if other people didn't welcome me in or didn't, you know, didn't provide me the space to show up in, and they did provide me the space. So
I
being
love
able to show up in it makes it easier.
I heard a quote from, I don't even know who it was from, but it was about comfort. And it says, whose comfort are we prioritizing? And they were talking about students at school. So, like here, you're like, whose comfort am I prioritizing? And it's my kids, because, or not my kids, but like I will be discomfort, I will have uncomfort in these situations so that. Because I know it's best for them. Like I know that I'm showing up in places that might be uncomfortable to me at first, but we're not,
Oh,
it's all
and
about
I'm a naturally anxious human when it comes to like, like I don't want to look stupid if I'm doing it by myself. Like I'm great to look stupid if like Mallory's with me or like, like we're gonna try something like, you
You're in
know
a
what I mean?
group.
Like that you don't
Get
you're
it.
on your phone and
Yeah.
not knowing what you're doing. And so if the perfect example is this summer we were getting ready to go to the powwow and I had texted my friend and I was like, okay, so like what's the parking situation? What are you wearing? Because also it's hot and I don't want to be hot. Like, so where do I park? What else do I need to bring? And then she texted me, she's like, listen here, white woman, this is the first time you're a minority. Get over it. Welcome to our life. And I was like, you know what? Like, thank you. You're not
Right.
wrong.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even thought about it of that part. I was just like, I am naturally anxious and I don't want to park in the wrong spot. I don't want to be in someone's way. And like, but being able to, for them to be able to say to me, like, okay, do you know what it's like for us to show up every day? And I'm like, gosh darn it, you know, you're not right. Like, okay, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Like, so I think it's been humbling, but it's been also been the greatest experience ever.
Well, and brings a totally different perspective.
Yeah,
Totally different perspective. And getting out of your comfort zone.
yeah. And it takes a lot of work too, because like, it's not just showing up to those things, it's showing up and being authentic in it too,
Mhm.
right? Like I think that's the other hard part is when I first moved here and started my job, I reached out. Social services for the reservation is different than social services for the state. My
Oh,
tribe kids, yeah, my kids who are a part of the tribe go through, like my reporting is different from the state to the tribe. And so if my kids are Native American, then I report to the tribe. I can also report to the state, but the state's also just going to hand it to the tribe too. So like we just go ahead and do that. And so my initial task in my head when I started my job was I'm going to foster that relationship with them because I want to know how do I help and serve those kids? How do I help serve those families? And so, and we all know that social workers turnover rate is super high because they're overworked. I mean, like it's just so much to do. And so, like that was the first thing I did is that I wanted to meet everyone at social services. When they got a new social worker, I want to make sure that I meet them and I praise the bejeebas out of them because let's be honest, I don't know how you do it. Thank you so much for what you do. Um, And so like just showering them with appreciation and but it has to be authentic too. It can't just be me like, oh, just another person. No, like I got to know what you're going through in order to try to show up for you too
mhm.
and for us to be a partnership. And
Uh,
so,
and that social work counselor relationship is so important. So
yeah.
you're hitting it right on that we've got to foster those relationships with them because they know stuff that we don't know. We know stuff that they don't know. So if we work together, hey, that's a much better equation.
Yeah, and then it also provided this really cool opportunity for like we have two different groups that come into our school and we're in middle school. Like high school, I feel like is sometimes easier for groups to come in and do things because it's high school and I don't know. But like I've got two different I've got an FYC, which is Firekeepers Youth Council Junior. They come in. There's a high school group and a middle school group, and they come in like every other week and do little activities with our kids. And then outside of school, they also do little community service things and um, things like that. And then I have our Wellness Connections group with our social services that come in, and any student can be a member of either group. We have parent permissions, obviously, but like our Wellness Connections has our Pride Strong group, which is prevention. Oh, I'll have to look it up. But they do like social emotional learning with cultural relevancy. And so it's really fun to see and have other people come in. So that's not just your school counselor telling you how important your emotions are and these healthy relationships are, it's people that they see in the community too. Um, and then by them coming into our school, then also it's not just the reservation that's having the people in the community, it's the whole, because not everyone lives on the reservation. And so there are some Native kids who don't live on the reservation. And so making sure that they have access and that they feel included in it. And then again, what kid is it not good for? And it's not just for Native kids. I think that's the other part too, is that we want all of our kids to be included. We want all of them to know the different things. And so yeah, it's just been really cool. And so again, those relationships that I built in social services or in our wellness connections group, like allow for those different things to happen. And it's not just me doing them. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, you guys should create this group. No. They're like, we will have this group. And I'm like, okay, what days can you come? Where do we do this?
You know, oftentimes school counselors are the glue because we don't do it all. We are
Yeah,
just sometimes that bridge or that glue that we are that person that people reach out to. And I think that also shows with your social services, with your foster care too. You know, you're
yeah.
that bridge for all of that. And that is huge, Laura. And I also want to point out you have such passion. You can tell when you're talking. It's really cool. So thank you for what you're doing, not only for your kids at school, but also for the kids that you have. And I've met them and they're hysterical and great.
They're the okay. So my youngest, when I was on the Counseling Accents podcast. Before I was on it, I was listening, like we were on, like it was COVID, and so
Oh, I
everything was
remember this.
so shut down. And so they had this little podcast that they invited some people on, and I had went to go pick up my son up from Boys and Girls Club. And so it's like a 15-minute drive from my house. And so like I was listening to it in the car. So I went in, I picked him up, and then I had it loaded on my phone. But for some reason when I got back to the car, it became unmuted. And again, counselor accents, they have the greatest accents in the world. And my son, though, when we got in the car and it loaded up, he was like, "Why are you listening to these hillbillies?" But I was muted. And so then I can all of a sudden hear them being like, "Did someone just call us hillbillies?" And I was like, "Oh my God. Oh my gosh."
I'm
So
so sorry.
yeah. So when I was even getting ready for this, I was told my kids, I'm like, "I'm on a podcast this morning. We are being quiet. We are holding the dogs if they start barking. We are not asking me for anything at that time." And then my son was like, "Is this the hillbillies?" And I was like, "No, this is not. This is not. Stop it. Like, this is no."
Well, we could be. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I mean,
I mean,
Right.
we're both from small town America too.
yeah, I mean, I
All three of
can,
us. Maybe we're all three. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, we can change personalities. It's okay.
Um,
And we
Laura,
love
earlier
hillbillies. We love everybody.
we do.
Yeah.
Earlier you were talking about, mandated reporting and DCF and that kind of thing, and it reminded me, sometimes we have counselors who are new to the field, or if there's teachers listening, I do think that is a worry that people think we send in a report and automatically these people come out and they take the kids and they're gone forever. Well, I was sitting on a DCF training. I don't know if it was last year or earlier this year. I can't snow brain at this point. Um, but they showed what happened in the back end, like when they receive a report, what happens, and it was so cool. So they receive a report, and then it goes into this queue, if you will, and people are looking at it, but then it showed like as soon as it's opened, how all of these people from DCF flood into it, and they look through it and like, oh, okay, I can provide this, I can do this, I'm on this. And it showed how many people touch it and really think about what's happening and the impact. And that was really cool to me. Because I often think like one person looks at it and that's the end. But it was so neat to see that all these people are looking at it to see what resources they can provide and how they can help. And so, like for instance, when I was working at a different school district, I had a student who, we were worried about them and I'd made a report. Well, come to find out, they talked about lack of food and not having any, all this stuff. Well, they needed a refrigerator. So DCF helped them get a refrigerator. And then boom, we were back in business, people. So I don't think
Right.
that they realize that stuff like that happens, that it's not always a bad thing when things are reported. It's we're trying to provide resources and help. And so I sometimes I think we get not just we, but educators think that, like I said, we're just going to snatch these kiddos up and we'll never see them again. But really, it's about resources and support and safety.
And I
Well, and talk
and I think
about trauma. I mean, ripping kids out of homes. Hello, we want to help with that situation. So, Hannah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes the mindset needs to change where it's more of a helping
Mhm.
and resource building and how we can help besides just saying, hey, they're going to take your kids. No,
That's not the goal.
education and
Well, and
resources.
just like Laura said earlier, like that's not the
The
goal.
goal.
That's not what people want to, nobody wants that to happen, but we
Right,
do want to ensure safety. So
right.
I had just
and I
thought,
think we have to like look at history of it too, because I think the other part that I always think plays a massive role in my community is, and even being from my community, I didn't realize this as much until I'm an adult. My like Native Americans were forced into boarding schools. And so I have grandparents who were still a part. I mean, I have parents. Boarding schools are not a thing that will happen like, and I don't mean boarding schools like the cute little like Blair Waldorf. Like I'm talking about like Native Americans were forced into these schools, taken away from their families, couldn't communicate with them, hair chopped off, like
Mhm.
whole other ways of life. And we're not talking about that long ago. And so when I think about like, yeah, I bet you're terrified that I'm gonna do something and mess up this family. So like, yeah, if you need to not like me or if you need that time like space, you have it, honey. And but just hold the door just a little bit for me because I'm telling you that was not okay. And that is not what I'm doing here. And so like I totally understand.
yeah,
Like I see why you're mad.
because
All about perspective, right?
that
And you
worries.
having that background knowledge and history, that's awesome.
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't know that if unless somebody had like propped the door for me or had said, and again, my school district and community has done an amazing job of educating us and giving us resources and providing opportunities for us to learn these things too. Um, and then even extending it into what we do in our classrooms, because like our high school has Native American literature that we use, that they like an actual class. And then we've worked really hard in our libraries to try to make sure we have different literature. But then we also offer a Native American history class. And it's not just being taught out of like our teachers work with the tribe to make sure that the stories that are being told or the information that we're telling is factual and it's not whitewashed and it's
Mhm.
just again like we want everyone to be at the table and we want to go through we want to be respectful of it, but we also want the facts to be communicated and we want to provide the space so people can be seen. And then again, like it is hard to sit there and be like no, people who look like me made these horrible mistakes. And so hopefully people who look like me will now be able to work harder to do better.
Wow. When we know better, we
That's
do.
powerful. Yeah.
That is- You're crushing it, Laura. I'm so proud of you.
You are,
I
and
don't
congratulations again on being a finalist. That's very cool.
I don't know. Did you guys like, I feel like even when I was filling out paperwork, because you do all the paperwork about what you do, which also I think is hilarious. Come on, come on. Whatever, what other profession are you like, here's why I should be valued. Because come on, like we all know why we're amazing. But like, did you also sit here and you're like, I don't do anything. Like, what do I do? Like, I,
Imposter syndrome is real.
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Yeah, I
100%.
still
And
have
then
it. It's okay.
But hey, they're
It
saying that
makes us
imposter
human.
syndrome is actually it's actually a good thing because it shows that you want to do good. It shows
Mhm.
that you want to do what it's
You're
kind of like
reflecting.
anxiety. A little anxiety is a good thing. A lot of anxiety, yeah, not so much. It's
Little
kind of
anxiety, some motivation.
yes, yeah.
it also reminds us that we don't do everything in silos. Like we're not doing anything alone. Like I think that's the other part too of like Big Wick, Ashley Wick is my high school counselor, and she's the best human ever. But
She is wonderful.
she's so amazing, and I have a little credit in that I babysat her growing up. But um, she like when I was filling it out, I'm like, dude, Ashley, like this is stupid. I'm not turning this in. Like I don't do anything. And she was like, you do everything. She was like, half the things that I do, I only do because you're like, oh, that'd be awesome, do it. And she's like, even if it's the encouragement, like, and so then I just started thinking about, she's like, it's the relationships you build, it's the encouragement that you give, it's the like, yeah, maybe I don't have all my lessons alphabetized or like even chronological or even planned like ahead of time, but like
Hey, let's
it's
give
the
you
want to
credit
do that.
that you're a middle school counselor doing lessons because not all of them do. So give yourself kudos there.
Well, and
Oh,
I
and
think
again,
just being a middle school counselor, period.
oh guys, I would have said when I was in college and people were like, oh, I want to be a middle school counselor. I'm like, you're stupid. No way. I'm
And
not
here
touching
you
that.
are rocking it.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm not touching that with
one of our
a
favorite sayings is counselors need counseling too. We're human and it's okay. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses. But the fact that you know those things about yourself, like Hannah said, sometimes that's a good thing having that imposter
yeah.
syndrome because you think about it.
Mhm.
So it's
And then you
good.
surround yourself with people who make up for it. Like you said, like you're a middle school counselor doing classroom lessons. Like I struggled with that. Like getting in the classroom again, I never want to be in anybody's way. I never want to cause somebody else like annoyance or frustration. And
But as
we
counselors,
have
we have to remember we do need to take up space because we don't.
100%.
Yeah.
And we're leaders.
Yep.
And so like we had some shifts in our school and so we got a librarian that like we split with the elementary school and I love her. Like she babysat me growing up. This is how fun it is. Um,
Gotta
but
love
like
a small town and a small world.
it's the best. And so like when she came in and we looked at the schedule, I'm like, would you mind if I came in so every so often to do some lessons? And then we team teach. Like, so we have worked through this whole growth mindset lesson plan by Heather Hunley and Annie Brock. It's amazing. Of like
Also
all
from the Holton area.
what go Jack. Um, like, but having someone else to be like, yes, come in. And then I think the other empowerment part of that too was like, I don't have a teaching background. And
We don't
some
either.
you're right.
You're in a
But
safe
sometimes
place.
Safe
No,
place.
no.
right. But like some of my criticism that I get sometimes is like, well, you're not a teacher. You've never been in the classroom. Like you don't understand. Okay, yeah, sure. I don't understand part of that, but I also ran. security for a stadium of 50,000.
Right,
Like,
which you did not
trust
do,
me.
right?
Like,
And
yeah,
I get kids, right? So maybe
right.
maybe I wasn't a teacher, but I get how these kiddos
Mhm.
operate. And there are things that we learn as we go. I am not there. I still am learning classroom
Yeah,
management skills now.
yeah.
Preach.
But
Yes.
being able to like team up with somebody who like again, my librarian was a teacher, was an amazing teacher, like, and then she was like, "Yeah, come in." And then her continuing that work even when I'm not in there, like, because then let's be honest, how many times do you get pulled into a crisis and then all of a sudden you can't go, or like right before Christmas break, who hadn't done any of the schedules that she needed to do, um, and she was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll just do the next lesson. We're great." Like those relationships and those the things that you can set into place, like the seeds that you plant so that way you're not the one having to like water and put the sunlight on them when other people are putting the sunlight on them. Like that grows an even bigger program.
What a great analogy.
I know, right? I was so pumped about that one.
Proud of you. Proud of you. Laura, you have done such an amazing job. Continue on, my queen. You are doing great. And thank you for carving out time today on this cold, blustery day.
Oh, you guys made me get up earlier than I've been getting up all day. So it was a
It's
good
good
little
for all of us, really.
Now, Laura, I do have one question for you that I've been dying to ask this whole time. So, since I knew this about you, that you work in the same district that you grew up, but my question is, do you have any teachers at your building that taught you?
100%. Um,
I
my
love that.
teacher, so like our sixth grade math teacher, so they're all kind of retiring now. And so like my first year, I only had to meet four people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the four people that I met, one was the principal, and he had been there, but in my interview was all people like that I had grown up with. And not only had I grown up with, like our director of education, her daughter and I were really good friends, and like she went to a different school. The other assistant, like it was awkward and weird, but yeah, it was different. But so I only meet four people, and the four people that I met, like three of them had worked there for over 15 years. And so like it was like they either came when I was in high school or like right when I graduated. And so yeah, so like we are just now, there are still two teachers at the high school. One of them wasn't my teacher, but she was like my play director. And then our fax teacher, who I was super close with, she's still there. Which again is different collaborating that I do there because then I did a presentation for FCCLA a couple months ago. But our superintendent, his very first year of teaching, he was my freshman math teacher. And so it's again, those dual relationships are hilarious. And then I always explain to kids, like, you cannot be complete turds because someday you may end up being back here
You.
and asking for a job and it's awkward. So, like, make sure you don't mess this up because,
That's so true.
Hey, remember that time you gave me a detention? I'd like a job now.
it is. And so, like,
It's so true.
my sixth grade teacher, Miss Stidham, she is the best math teacher in the whole entire, she's a great human. Um, She's a little intimidating me at times because like she's so smart and she's got math on her side and I do not. And so like it's really funny because sometimes I'll go down there, I'm like, okay, like if I'm helping a kid with math, I'm like, did I do this right? And she's like, you're giving me flashbacks. And I'm like, I understand, like I swear.
Do you know how
Or
much how I had to be brave to even come down here and ask?
like I'm like, do you know how like and the worst part is that when I found out she was my teacher, I bawled like a baby, and she loves that I tell this story. I mean, I bawled because like my brothers had the other two teachers, and they were like super like one of Miss Bausch is the funniest human in the world. Like just like so I wanted teachers my brothers had. Come on, right? And so I bawled like a baby. And so of course at my first parent teacher conferences, my mom tells Miss Stidham this. And so when I
Ouch.
come, yeah, so Miss Stidham's
Thanks,
like,
Pam.
yeah, yeah. She's like, you cried, and I'm like, okay, but you're like my favorite teacher now. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do. And so the joke with Miss Stidham all the time is now like, are you gonna cry about it? And I'll be like, I might.
You know what? Tears are okay.
But
Safe
Yeah.
again,
place.
it's been the most beautiful thing to also get to watch too, because uh oh, she's amazing and it's just really funny sometimes to be like that relationship. She has seen me grow so much and then getting to watch her grow too, because like that's the other fun part too of like when these people come back and ask you like what your opinion is, you're like, oh God, like I'm the adult in this situation. Um, but again, like it's partially because of what they did for me when I was growing up, like that I can't.
Well, and
Yeah.
you see how important those relationships are because
Yeah.
And you're
you
doing it
had
every
a husband,
day.
and now you've come back, and it's like a new branch of relationship, if you will, you know?
Full circle. I love it.
Yeah,
It's the
that's really
best. It's
cool. That's really cool.
That's so fun. Okay, so we always end with a fun question.
okay.
And Laura, you are a great cook. And now, since you have kids, you get to cook even more.
Yeah, you have to like feed them every day, multiple
They're
meals.
hungry all the
And
time. They
and,
expect a meal.
and
So
my kids are both taller than me. I have 15 pounds to lose before I'm the skinniest in my house. If that tells you, like I'm a big kid, and like my kids ain't small. I don't raise lightweights.
that's okay. So, what is your go-to meal for you and the kids?
Horrible question. Um, like if it's a busy night, Taco Bell, if we're being honest. Um, anything I don't have to cook. Honestly, I've been into soups a lot lately,
Of
and I
course.
got into frozen blender. But we are really honestly a frozen pizza kind of family. Like that makes our hearts happy.
There is no shame in frozen pizza.
No. Um, anything. Then I also always have like chocolate chip cookies or monster cookies in the freezer. Like,
Yum. That's amazing. We talked about cookies a couple episodes ago. Love that. Laura, we're so proud of you. Keep doing amazing work. Hannah, always good to see you. And everybody stay warm. Listeners, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for continuing to support us. Everybody, you're doing amazing. Keep kicking it with Casca.